No, I just searched for quiet Christmas music. And here, switch it to. Well, this said high energy, so I was thinking. I just searched for quiet Christmas music. Here, switch it to.
Hey, are we recording you?
We were, but if it's not a hassle, go ahead and do it. We weren't going to record video. Are we recording tonight?
What mic do you have? They only have the two here.
Yeah.
That this one? Oh, this is it. Okay.
No, I know. I'm certainly looking for
That looks like it's it. That's it, right? Okay. Then we can record you.
This is what I put you.
What is this over here?
It's the live stream.
Oh. Do you have a live stream going tonight?
Yeah,
Okay.
Just to
to the nursery and to our Facebook group.
There's a break.
No, I just lowered it.
Are you sitting there?
No. Here we go. Lift it up.
No. Didn't even know you could lift it up. Are we doing all lights out tonight?
yeah. That's your last song.
Thank you.
Okay.
When do you want it off then? Okay.
Okay, we could. Can you just slide the just like no, they are just kind of slowly fade it because. Robert.
Good evening. Welcome to Redemption Hill Advent Service. We're glad that you could join us today. If your friends or family and you're here with them, thank you for joining us today for this special occasion. It's always a fun night to have everybody together to worship. We have been celebrating through Advent, and each week we've been lighting one new candle. And this day, today, is when we celebrate the Eve, when Mary and Joseph were preparing for the birth of their baby, and we're going to together light the Christ kingdom here in the center. Christ King obviously represents this baby was born on Christmas Day. We don't know when that day was. I'm not sure what exact day that was. It probably wasn't December 25th. But there's probably about 1/3 of 1% chance that it was that day, somewhere in there. And it's good to get together to do that. Today we're going to be doing a reading from John chapter 1, verse 1 through 14 of the Message. The Word was first. The Word was present to God. God present to the Word. The Word was God and readiness for God from day one. Everything was created through Him. Nothing, not one thing came into being without Him. That came into existence was life, and the life was the light to live by. The life light blazed out of the darkness could not put it out. There once was a man, his name was John, sent by God to point out the way to the life light. He came to show everywhere where to look, who to believe in. John was not himself the light, he was there to show the way to the light. The life light was the real thing. Every person entering life, he brings into light. He was in the world, and the world was there through him, and yet the world didn't notice. He came to his own people, but they didn't want him. But whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed he was, and who would do what he said, he made to be their true selves, their child of God selves. These are the God begotten, not blood begotten, not flesh begotten, not sex begotten. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, a one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son, generous inside out, true from the start to the finish. Let's pray to start our time together. Lord God, thank you so much. Thank you for this season where we slow down, hopefully, where we make some room in our lives to listen, to remember back to what has happened and how you have been at work through history. How in this one moment, everything changed. We pray, God, that during this time of worship tonight, that all of us would set aside all the worries and concerns, all the to-do lists, all the things that have been on our minds for weeks and months. Pray that we can set those aside and focus in on this light that has come to bring us life, to show us who we truly are and who we truly are. Our God, be with us in this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Would you stand with us in worship?
to the King. Peace on earth, mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the sky. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by eyes that adore, Christ the everlasting one, late in time, behold him come, offspring of the Virgin's womb. Hail in flesh the God can see, hail incarnate deity, please the man with man to dwell. Jesus, Son, Emmanuel, hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and light to all be praised, risen with healing in his wings. Body lays his glory by, born that night no born may die, born to grace the sons of light, born to give the second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. The angels did say, what you certain for shepherd in fields as they lay, in fields where they keeping their sheep on a cold winter's night that was so deep. Nowhere, 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 nowhere. Born is the King of Israel. They looked out and saw us shining in the east beyond the fog, and to them it gave great light. And so they continue on day and night. Noel, 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 Noel. Born is the King of Israel. Noel, 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 Noel. Born is the King of Israel. For if the kingdom is right.
We staying back here. I think we're good. Just
Okay, but there will be no room for her who was in anguish. Is this the right one? Am I reading the right way? The right verse? Okay, got it. But there will be no room for her who was in anguish. In the former time, he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. In the latter time, he has made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness, from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this.
Would you pray with me? Father God, on this night, we pause. We take a moment. We consider what you have done by breaking into human history, into our story, sending your Son, the Savior. God, we are thankful for what you have given to us, for all that we have received, for all this time being spent. We are most thankful for Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh. Come to show us who you are, to redeem us, to remake us into who we were meant to be. Thank you for this night. It's in His name. Amen.
Rob, is the microphone?
Doesn't matter. I can talk about it. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody again. I'm Bob. I'm one of the elders here at Redemption Hill. We are glad you could join us on this Tech Challenge Christmas Eve. Yes, it is the season for gremlins. There's a couple things that I want to let you know about. The first is somewhere near you or on the little table over there are these connection cards. If this is your first or second time here, we would just love to know what you would need us. And if you could fill one of those out just to let us know that you're here, we'd love to drop you a line and say thank you and keep you updated on what's happening in our community. The second thing is, throughout this year, we've been supporting Beat Charities. Do we have that? Yes. Thank you, Blake. And this is a Boise-based nonprofit dealing with helping people to find housing that they need. And we believe in this so much that every dollar that is given on this day, whether it is given electronically or in the baskets, we're going to donate to Beat Charities. So please, if you have not thought about how you're going to end your year-end giving, this would be a good opportunity to dig deep. We don't normally take an offering at Redemption Hill. We kind of just have the box, and it's available electronically. But we will, during the last song, be passing it next week. So, we charities, please help us support them. You can give tonight in the offering basket a check. There's a small box over there. If you need some time to write things out, you can give online at redemptionboise.org/give. Is that correct? Give or giving?
Give.
Give. Thank you. Give. You can give there as well. Would you guys stand as we continue in our Christmas worship?
Joyful and triumphant, oh, come ye, oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of nations. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord. Sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation, oh, sing, all ye citizens of heaven. Glory to God, glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore in Christ the Lord. Yea, glory, on this happy morning, O Jesus, to thee be all glory given. Word of the Father, now in flesh appeared. Oh, come, let us adore. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord.
If that's your come forward to receive the offering.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see light above silent stars above. Yet in that dark street shine the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all are met in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary, and gathered all light. And mortal sleeping shall there watch from wandering love. All morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God and peace to men on earth. How silently, the wondrous gift is given. So brought in hearts to you, and the blessing of His hand. No remaining is coming, but in this world of sin, where weak souls will receive Him, the dear Christ enters in. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see light above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars go by, yet in thy dark streets shine the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
We grab one of the lights and turn on your circle lights. That'd be great. Thank you so much for joining us today. A lot of people have been moving to our city, right? Every week there's somebody new moving in. My wife and I moved back to Boise after 6 years in Boston just 3 years ago. And we were looking and trying to find a house that would work for our family. And even 3 years ago, we had put offers on several houses before we were able to step into the house that we were looking for. And when we moved to the neighborhood, our thought was we're going to do this in a way that we haven't done before, because most people in America, like 90% of Americans, could not tell you the first name of their neighbor on their right or their left. In all of years today, I know the neighbor on my right and not on my left. You're thinking through, okay, who do I know? Well, we were like, okay, we're going to try to be neighbors. We're going to try to build relationships, to connect to them, to be a resource. But doesn't it just feel so random who your neighbors end up being? Like you just have no control whatsoever about who those people are, and you can't like do a background check on the whole neighborhood. I mean, they have like the sex offender registry, which is a good tool, but like you can't like look and see the next door neighbors, and the selling realtor will never tell you
the truth about the neighbors. The sellers will never tell you about, for us, it was a halfway house next door. They don't tell you these sorts of things when you buy a house. But being neighbors is a really intimate thing, isn't it? Your neighbors probably have seen you at your best and at your worst. You share life with people who live so close to you. You see each other taking out the trash in your boxers. Anybody? Anybody doing that at 6 a.m.? I've done that a couple times. You see and hear the mess in each other's lives. You put up with the problems. You see the ambulance lights. You hear the fighting. And neighbors is a really intimate thing. Our neighborhood has been in flux as we moved in. We're in a neighborhood that's 60 years old, and I don't know if you realize this, but people who buy their houses 60 years ago have lived in them, and now they're all in their 80s and 90s. So every week we have an estate sale in my neighborhood. It's just the nature of the turnover in my neighborhood. There's the group of people who have owned homes for 60 years there. They started there, they lived there their whole lives, and now they're passing on those houses to new families. And we've been seeing a lot of changes. And every time a house goes up for sale in our neighborhood, we start wondering, who is going to be our neighbor? What are they going to be like? Are they going to be somebody that we really want to be our neighbor? Or are they going to be somebody like a Cousin Eddie sort of figure? Those of you who have seen National Christmas Vacation, Cousin Eddie is a neighbor that moves in with his whole house onto your street and then empties his RV into your rain sewer system, which is not ideal. You're always wondering, is this guy going to be the guy who puts up 17 old cars along the side of his house, hoping that one day he'll get to them all? I'm not going to name any names in the room, but there's a few. Is it going to be a Ned Flanders type? Too righteous, overbearing, overwhelming, kind of goody two-shoes, that makes you always, it's the guy who mows his lawn twice a week in the summer, because it just gets a little too long if he waits from Saturday to Saturday. Anybody have a neighbor like that who's just a little too into their house is perfect? Or are they going to be just the perfect neighbor, a Mr. Rogers type, who's going to be a great listener, who will be available, who has room in his life to share his life with you? We've seen in our neighborhood all three of those types of neighbors have moved in over the years. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of good things, a lot of bad times, a lot of good things. But no matter who they are, when someone moves into your neighborhood, things change. Every single house that changes in your neighborhood brings a new group of people. And that's what Christmas is all about. In that passage we read earlier from John chapter 1 said this. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. That's the translation from the Message, but this is really about God himself moved into our neighborhood and joined us in this neighborhood, this earth that we live in. So what exactly does it mean? It means more than we can possibly imagine. We're going to dig into that for a few minutes. To get to it, though, the Word, this is a strange thing to call God the Word, right? Have you ever thought that that's a weird thing in the Bible to call God the Word? It's a strange deal. It's basically, though, in the book of John, the entire first chapter is all about explaining what the Word was. It's a term in Greek, it's logos, logo. We have a lot of words. It's really, it means what it sounds like. It's a word or the Word. And it's a special term that was used by John for a very particular reason, because John was writing in Ephesus in the first century. And Ephesus, does anybody know where Ephesus is? It's in a Greek-speaking area of Asia Minor, okay? Ephesus is a part of this Greek-speaking world. It was full of Greek speakers who were part of the Roman Empire. And John was writing to them, but he was also writing to Jewish believers. And this idea of the Word being co-equal or equal to God was true both from a Greek sense and from a Hebrew sense. So what was Logos in Greek or Hebrew? For the Jews, they believed that words did things. There was only 10,000 words in the Hebrew language. Just for comparison, Greek has 200,000 words. English has, anybody know? Any lexicography fans?
Over 100.
It's like 2 million distinct words in the English language. It's had more words and more phonetic changes than any language in the history of language. Okay? So we have this incredibly complex language. They have 10,000 words because they believed that each word and each sound that we used corresponded with a reality that it was speaking to. So words were very powerful. So this word logos, a Greek word, the word, it had an independent existence. Words make things happen in Hebrew to the Jews. So when you go to court and a judge pronounces something, him saying those words changes something in the world. When a judge pronounces you guilty, you become guilty with the pronunciation. When I stand up in front of the church and I perform a wedding ceremony, when I say, now, I proclaim you husband and wife. I'm literally transforming the reality of those people by proclaiming that over them. Words are incredibly powerful in the Jewish religion. And what we see in the Old Testament is that in Aramaic, which was the kind of Hebrew Creole mix, it's like Arabic and Hebrew got pushed together, and that's what the Jews spoke in the first century. But in Aramaic, they would write the name of God, but they didn't want to say that God did things because it felt too intimate to talk about God interacting with humanity. So what they would do is they would replace the word God, or Yahweh, or Adonai, or Lord, or any of these other terms, and you replace it with the Word, because that's how they thought of God was, the Word, the eternal Word, the Word and the reason of God. Basically, Word meant not just an idea in a picture form that we write out in letters. Words meant the reason and the reality of the world. Words were incredibly important in the Hebrew language. So, on the Greek system, though, to these Ephesians, the word logos in Greek was even more important than the word in Hebrew. It was invented, interestingly enough, in Ephesus, where John wrote the book of John. And it was invented because these philosophers were trying to describe the nature of the universe. And they were looking at things going, how do I describe what's true and what's not? How do I make sense of, there's this world that's always in flux and always changing, but there's these eternal forms and functions of this world that are stable. In the mix of this incredibly fluctuating, changing universe, there's still these things that are always true. They were struck by the reasoned nature of creation. They look around and they say, that guy's a human, and that person's a human, and they're different, but there's something that unites them as one thing. There was this solidity to it. And so they called that thing Logos. What they said was that there's these eternal forms that have existed from before all of creation, and that the words that we use are a way for us to say that they correspond to these perfect forms that have existed from all time. They would say that the Logos would correspond to these divine Logos, these essential truths of the universe. So Logos, or word, was really important to the Greeks. And so when they talk about Logos coming and dwelling with us, what John was trying to do was trying to say, for those of you who come from a Greek understanding, for those of you who come from a Jewish understanding, there's something here that both of you can tap into. John makes this startling declaration that the Word has come down and has made his home with us. He moved into the neighborhood and it changed everything. See, the Jews and the Greeks had independently discovered, looking at creation, that there was something outside of themselves that everything comes from. Many of you in college probably took an anthropology course. You may just get incredibly bored in an anthropology course at college. It was amazing and terrible all at the same time. But anthropology is this class that's built on a singular belief. And what is that belief? That the material things that we create as humans say something about who we are. So when you go and you do archaeology and you study the way that people have lived, the way that people live, the way that people interact with stuff, and the stuff that gets left behind, it tells you something about who those people were. What the Greeks did and the Hebrews did at the same time is they said, you know what? The stuff that's here, everything that's made in creation, we can understand something about the Creator God by looking at it and understanding how it works. And they both came to these independent conclusions. This idea of the Logos, the Word, is the essential nature of truth in the universe. Isn't that incredible? And then when John comes along, he says, here you are, I want to tell you about this Logos, the Word, who he is and what he's done. And this is what it says. Oh, that's not right. That's number 2. All right, we're going to skip that. I'm just going to read it to you. Here we go. John, chapter 1, verse 9, verse 9 says this. The true light which gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, and he believed his name, and he gave them the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. John wants to make this point. God kept showing up. Even when the Jews and the Greeks didn't really get it, he kept showing up in history to give them a little taste of who he was. He would interact with humans and show them what he was up to and how he was pursuing humanity. And over time, I think God got a little tired waiting. He was waiting for us to get what he was up to. And he goes, you know what? I've been trying to do this from a distance. We're going to get from a distance. And so instead of us waiting for God, God came to us. The Word became, he took on flesh and blood and moved into our neighborhood. I like here in verse 12, it says this. He gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. You see what John's doing there? He's saying that God made a way for you to be heavenly, for you to have this new kind of spiritual existence, not by giving you a spiritual existence, but by himself leaving his spiritual existence outside of creation and entering into this world with us. You had flesh and bones, and your flesh and bones couldn't get you to God, but God took on flesh and bones so that we could see and understand who God was, so we could walk with him. And this little baby being born in a manger 2,000 years ago is the culmination of all of history. People have been groping after this understanding of God, and they've been failing. God speaks to his people, but they don't understand. And through the expanse that separates this world from what's beyond this world, God broke down the barriers. The eternal Word, the one who created all things. He entered into creation. Stupid. I have 3 little kids. They're all shorter than this. Anybody else? There's a few little kids. They're always walking up to me when they're talking to me, and they just say my name for a while. And they just keep saying my name until I listen to them. And most of the time, I'm looking at my phone, or I'm doing some work, or I'm cleaning up the house, and I don't really know if they need me. And so I kind of wait to see if they keep going, because if they don't keep going, they don't really need me. But eventually, Malia says, Robert, Theo's saying something to you. And I get a clear signal from my wife. And what I do is I don't look down at him. Because looking down at him, there's this expansive to this. What I do is I look down on him. Get down on my knees and I stoop. And I look him in the eye and I say, what do you need, buddy? This is the posture of Christmas. God himself condescending to our tiny reality. We've been trying to connect with God. We've been trying to get his attention and understand him. But instead of us attaining God, he stooped down low. He got down to our level and he said, what do you need? How can I help you discover your life in me? The creator of the universe, the one who is beyond the created order. He took on the frailty of this human state, belonging to creation. You gotta think about that. It's like you have created something like a Lego existence, a little Lego village, and then you have shrunk yourself and joined it. My kids watch all sorts of movies that's that exact storyline. Like half of the kids' movies are that storyline where they make something and they shrink and they get to it. We watch Baby to the Toilet the other day, we watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. There's a whole genre about shrinking down into it. And I think that that's written into our DNA is we want to enter in like the Father, the Creator, entered into our existence with us. So that we might understand who this Logos truly was. Because everything you see in the life of Jesus, everything he taught, everything that he said, everything that he did, was a perfect representation of who God is. Before Jesus came, everybody was just trying to get some idea of what God was like and how he existed and what he thought. But when Jesus came, he tore down all the barriers and he said, no, this is what it's like to walk with God. And so when we read the scripture, when we read these gospels, it's a perfect picture of who God the Father is. In verse 16 of John 1 says, for from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. The law was a gift to help point people towards this Logos, but Jesus Christ coming was the fulfillment, the fullness of the grace and the mercy of God for us. Verse 18 says, no one has ever seen God, the only God who is at the Father's side. He has made him known. That's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we sit and we light a candle and we tell the story year after year after year, because that little baby's not just a baby, old baby. Babies are cool. I like babies. I like to hold them. I think they're cute. I think I like babies more than most guys. I just like them. They're cool. But you know what? They don't do anything. Babies are useless. I don't know if you realize this. They don't do anything. They don't help at all. They take away all your sleep. They make your life harder. They don't do anything. But this little baby, when he showed up, the world was transformed by his being. Him entering in changed the whole equation between us and God. Because it was no longer us trying to reach out to grab hold of God. It was God's stupid love. And entering into our life, our reality. And I think that we're all wondering at this point, it's gone on long enough, why does this matter? We're doing good. I got 15 minutes to close this thing out. We're still under an hour. We're doing great. Why does this all matter? Just like when someone else moves into the neighborhood, it changes the dynamics of the whole neighborhood. When God moves into the neighborhood, everything changes. He's not just a nice addition to the block. He's not a mysterious figure in that corner house. All of history hinges on this event. If it's true, if God really showed us who he was in this person of Jesus, it's the hinge point of all history. It's why we all matter. It's why we wake up in the morning. It's why we spend our lives the way we do. Because God is revealing himself to us in this tiny little baby. If it's not true, it's just a huge hoax. It either has infinite importance or no importance at all. There's no middle ground. It can't just be a nice sentimental holiday where we sing a few songs. It either has to mean God has revealed himself in a human, or this whole thing is crazy. And all of you are somewhere in those two camps, is my bet. You thought you were in the middle, but now you're wondering. You're wondering, do I fit? Am I in this camp where I've seen the truth of Jesus' life and his death and his resurrection, and I see who God is through that? I find life and light in Christ. Or you're over here and you're like, I think it's a huge hoax and I don't want to waste my time on it. You got to be in one of those two camps. That's the only logical place to be. And judging by the impact that the Word has had on this world, there's something worth exploring. Over 2,000 years, people from every country on earth have said, I find Jesus compelling. They say, I'm willing to leave everything and follow him. It's the only religious cultural phenomenon that literally works everywhere. It transforms every person it touches, every neighborhood it touches, every city it touches, every country it touches. That doesn't mean that you have to do it, but what it does mean is that everybody has to give this event some serious thought, some serious consideration. Just like when we study anthropology, we understand people by what they make. We can look around this world and say nothing is here by accident. The 100 billion biological processes that have created this sentient mind who's able to act independently of my own volition did not just happen randomly. Everything that you are and I am tells us something about this creator who made all things and knows all things. There's only one way to really walk in life in the way that it's meant to be. And that's we receive our instructions from our Creator to live in the function and the purpose that we were made. The incarnation is like that. It's like we've been doing theology kind of indirectly. We've been looking at trying to understand this Creator and His work of creation. And then He shows up on the scene and He says, okay, I know you've been trying to understand this thing. It's like if you're in an anthropology class and you're studying the Paleolithic era, and then someone literally shows up in your classroom, like Brendan Fraser. He's been in an iceberg, frozen for 100,000 years, and he shows up, and then he tells you what it was like. That's what it's like when Jesus shows up. We've been grasping and reaching and trying to understand who God is, and God said, I'm going to show you life. I'm just going to walk into your world, I'm going to move into the neighborhood, and nothing will ever be the same again. He moves into our neighborhood, even our mess of a neighborhood, this world with murderous kings and terrible childhood illnesses and high maternal mortality rates. In a country under the thumb of a foreign dictator, instead of waiting for us to get it, for this world to get better, God said, I'm going to jump into the fray. God stooped low. He took on flesh and blood so that we could have His spiritual life. The Word of God took on flesh and blood and He moved into the neighborhood. So what are you going to do? You've got a decision to make. When the person who is God moves into your neighborhood, you've got a couple options, a few options. The first option is you can ignore it. I did that with some of my neighbors. They moved in, and you think, I got to get over there and meet them. And then it's 2 years later, and it's too late. And you've got the problem. Some of you have been doing that with God, where He moved into your neighborhood. He started to knock on your door. He started to change the nature of your neighborhood and people around you, and you can hold it back. The neighborhood's changing around you. You've got to decide, are you going to embrace who God is, what He's doing, or are you going to push it back? Some of you went over and met Jesus. You knocked on the door, you brought him some cookies, you sat down, you had a pleasant conversation with him. And that was it. Some of you said, you know what, I like that guy. He's a nice guy. I'd borrow his lawnmower sometime if I needed it. He'd be a guy that I'd call when I need an extra set of arms to set that stud wall in place. You know, those guys that you meet in your neighborhood. But he's not a guy I really want to do life with because when I'm around him, I feel challenged. I feel like there's something in me that's not quite right. I need to change. And he brings to me this deep desire in me to be transformed. It's going to cost me something. Some of you have been sitting in kind of that middle ground where you know him and you wave to him across the street. You know, maybe you show up to church a couple times a year, Christmas and Easter, and you wave to Jesus and you say, hey, we're good till April, right? You know, you kind of, from a distance, you're holding off saying, hopefully you hear this. But when God moves into the neighborhood and changes him. And some of you said, you know what? I find Jesus so compelling, I'm going to start changing my life and doing life with him. I'm going to invite him into my home. I'm going to go into his home. We're going to share our homes as a whole. And what happens when you do that, I can tell you, I've been living it out for about 20 years now. Your life gets infinitely better and infinitely harder in the same measure. And it's wonderful. It's incredible because you all of a sudden have a path to walk. You understand where you're going, and you aren't unfearful. So I want to challenge you as the band comes up. I want you to make a decision. Are you going to look at this U-Haul moving into the neighborhood on Christmas Day? This little baby who took on the flesh and blood of this world. Are you going to look at that U-Haul moving in and are you going to embrace it? Are you going to walk across the street? Are you going to make those cookies? Are you going to say, hey, let's figure out how to life? Because here's the thing, when you're neighbors, whether you realize it or not, you're stuck, right? Like that's the hardest part about being neighbors, is it's hard to get away from them. They're living next door. They have a foundation and a house and a mortgage, and they're probably going to give you long term. And the ones you don't want to stick around are the ones who are going to live there till the end of time, okay? You cannot change who your neighbors are. But you can be transformed by becoming who you're meant to be by embracing the neighbors God's people. That's a word for a different day. But today, the question is, are you going to embrace God moving into the neighborhood, or are you going to pretend like it doesn't exist? If you're ready, you're saying, you know what? I've been holding out a distance, I've been waiting across the street, and I'm ready to dive in. It looks like saying, God, I want you. I want to see who you truly are. I want to be shaped by you. I want to walk with you. This Christmas season is a turning point for me. And for some of you, today's the day where you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to lean in. I'm going to walk with people who walk with Jesus. I'm going to read Scripture. I'm going to start living my life with God. Maybe for the first time, maybe again. It's just a simple prayer of surrender, saying, Jesus, I'm in. Show me who you are. Give me forgiveness for who I am and what I've done, and help me to walk with you for the rest of my life. And some of you are saying, I'm really not sure about this, and I'm really not sure I want to give it my time. I want to challenge you, if you're holding out, some of you are saying, my family's religious and I'm not. And I don't really want what they have because it'll cause me to transform myself. I'll be changed by it. I'm going to tell you, that's a crazy position to have. To be so impacted that people around you that you won't receive something good because the people around you have that stuff. Trying to find your individual identity at the cost of finding true life. Come to Jesus on your own. It's compelling, it's transformative, it's worth everything. Don't ignore Jesus, because he's made a claim. If he really is who he says he is, if he really is God who gave up his heavenly place to enter into the stoop low and take on the flesh and blood of man, then it does change everything. I'm going to invite you to receive that today. Even as we sing this song, say, you know what? I'm ready to ask the questions in a new way. I'm ready to enter in and dive deeper this time. Would you stand with me as we sing Silent Night here at the end of the song? What I'm going to do is I'm going to light my candle from the Christ candle, and I'm going to bring it to the ends of your rows, and I'm going to light that person's candle. Now here's the secret, okay? The person who has the light, you stay there. The people who doesn't have the light, until it's end, okay? This will save you some nice little hand burns. Alright? So let's sing together.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round your virgin mother and child. bright. Star of God's most radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord of thy birth, Jesus, Lord of thy birth. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. Glory streams from heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born.
In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything that was made was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. May each of us receive this light unto ourselves. Join the chorus of hymns. Join the mighty blaze of souls who have taken on this light of God and have lived out the way that has brought light to all around us. Lord, peace and mercy. Thank you for joining us. We can blow out the candles, and we have cookies in the back, and have a very, very close.
Eat one. Let's see if we can.
Beat one?
No.
Oh, you need to bring it up there. No, okay.
Well, for some reason, we got maps different. We don't know which one it's on. Well, those are just, that's not even anything. I don't even know. We're listening to Christmas.
Relaxation. Want to find where those go?
What was their new kid's name?
Huh?
What was the new kid's name?
The new kid?
Yeah, Julian and Luke's.
What?
Julian and Luke's foster kid.
Oh, Curie.
Kiri.
Yeah, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, that's a quiet Christmas.
Did you want to cry it quietly? What did you want?
I don't know. Just, I can't even know
Because it's Robert's favorite.
Is it? Oh, yeah. we'll let the gambler sing to us. Okay, we want to help just a little bit.
He really likes that. He really likes
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, got a hug from a girl.
We'll go a different direction.
There we go.
Let's do it.
Push her off.